Good evening, good evening. Welcome in. Thank you all for coming and tuning in to another episode live, the Dynasty Force podcast on Twitter at Dynasty Force Pod, Dynasty Force Podcast on YouTube. I am Robert, your host, as always, Fantasy Force FB. And then I am here with my esteemed colleague, Billy Brisbane, at Billy Briz on Twitter. Bill, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, man. Doing this one from the iPad today. Currently have
Ooh,
a computer
different.
and at my room. So at my girlfriend's doing it off the iPad, so that's why my Twitter at name isn't there. But we're here. We're here. Hopefully, some people had a fantasy championship ring under their belt coming into this week.
Yeah, and hopefully we were part of the reason why. It's why we're here and what we live for. Along with bettering ourselves, bettering the viewers that tune in. So thankful for all of you again, and we hope that we could help you out there throughout this season, winning those championships. Specifically preseason, I think is when we help the most. We have little guides during the week, but um, as far as like managing your roster and everything, I think we offered the most help during the preseason. And obviously, throughout the week, you could always contact us. Obviously, week 17, if you have championships, then first of all, very sorry for you because you won't have a lot of your studs because teams don't need to play their starters. Um, but if you do have week 17 championships, we're not going to be acknowledging that stuff on the show because it's more and more unlikely nowadays because people are getting smarter. But if you do have a week 17 championship, number one, not saying you're dumb, but your league is kind of, not for me. But if you also have a week 17 championship and you need help, Billy is available on Twitter at Billy Briz. I'm available on Twitter at FantasyForceFB, and we are available on Twitter at Dynasty Force Pod. Bill, I know you said you have a basketball live going on tonight because basketball is back. The DFS is hitting. You want run that down on your Twitter.
Yeah, man. You can find me over on Twitter at Getting Bills. I do a NBA morning show every morning, and then right before lock, we go over there on Twitch with Taylor and make sure we got everything together for the news and stuff like that, and go along with the rest of the slate. It's been pretty profitable so far this season. Haven't had a takedown yet, but one of these days we're definitely going to get one. That's really everything that's
Still
happening.
early. Still early. So got the time to make it happen. I know you will. You got it. You got it in your repertoire. As for me, I'm gonna have to find something to keep me busy because I had the matchup breakdowns going down. Speaking of, I did not post my matchup breakdown for week 16. I'm sorry about that. I was just kind of, I don't know, had a lot going on. Just kind of got lost in the wave. Also, did not post last week's episode of the podcast on listening platforms, so double shame on
Mm.
me. I'm, whew, I last week was not my best week. I'll admit it, but this week I will get better. I'll have to find stuff to write about. Probably just dynasty pieces and other things of that nature. But you can always follow me on Twitter at FantasyForceFB. I'll always tweet my thoughts. I'll tweet other people's thoughts. It's the beauty of Twitter. You can retweet things very easily, and I like doing it. So, without further ado, this episode is a review of how we did in 2020 because obviously, you kind of got to grade yourself as an analyst to continue being an analyst. Analyst will say, running the pod. So, we basically have taken our preseason rankings and we've taken a look at them and how players have finished. And, are there any guys that are outliers compared to our rankings? Like guys, um, obviously not guys like James Robinson, where no one expected him to be a top 5 running back. Obviously not guys like, I don't know, Kenny Galladay, who played like 2 games, Christian McCaffrey, who played 3 games this year, things like that. but more so along the line of guys who we expected bigger things from, and they didn't provide those bigger things. So we'll be looking into that today. But first, we got some really quick news to hit on. I want to run down the AFC and NFC playoff pictures too, because I think that would be fun. 1 week before the playoffs, everything gets crazy now with teams trying to get in. So let's do it real quick. Forgot. I just wanted to brag really quick. I did win, Billy. I did beat Rack in the
Corey?
Dynasty League. So I am a Dynasty League champion this year.
Congrats.
Thank you. My team, I'll pull it up real quick. Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Dalvin Cook, Myles Gaskin were carrying me at running back. More so Myles Gaskin carrying me. He had a great week. Let's see. At wide receiver, I had Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, Jamison Crowder. Calvin Ridley and Jamison Crowder were specifically the ones who had bigger weeks. Travis Kelce, Joe Bernard had a pretty good week too. Drew Brees kind of let me down, but also Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So that was my starting lineup. I also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the bench. This is a 10-team league, so it's a little more shallow. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the bench since he didn't play, just to highlight another sort of big name. Also, Joe Mixon on IR. So I actually overcame Joe Mixon not participating. I did have Gio, thankfully, but yeah, not the best. And I spent up a lot to get Dalvin Cook before the season started. I had Antonio Gibson. So I think trading for Dalvin Cook, really getting another big piece, especially with Joe Mixon going down, I think it helped, carry my roster throughout the rest of the year. So
it was pretty consistent. RB1 for a pretty large part of the season this year.
Yeah, I believe his final ranking is either RB2 or 3. Because Kamara had like bigger blow up games, specifically this past week.
Yeah.
In standard leagues, Cook is the running back 2 by like a point, and in PPR leagues, he is the running back 2 by about 40 points. So that's difference for Kamara and PPR. But yeah, I'm gonna celebrate somehow. I don't know. I don't know if like I should, because Dalvin didn't carry me to victory in the championship, but like I invested everything in him. Like he was my big investment to help get me over the hump. So I'm wondering if I should get like some Dalvin Cook merch, or if I should get like Myles Gaskin was kind of the big guy for me, maybe Calvin Ridley, someone who actually helped me win the championship. It's something like that. So I haven't decided. If you have any ideas as the listeners, or Bill, even you, I'm interested. Let me know in the comments on Twitter or YouTube. Always open to these opinions, and honestly, I don't know, so something to look into. So that's the only league, sadly, that I won the championship in. I had 2 other championships going on. I faced Alvin Kamara in one, so I was at a very big disadvantage in that one. I think he scored 190 in like a regular ESPN standard PPR league, and if you know those leagues, it's really hard to score that many points.
Yeah.
So that, and then the other one, he scored 150 something, and it was going to be hard to overcome. And then I just had some disappointments, like Derrick Henry this past week, not doing so well. Miles Sanders was really great in the first quarter, and then they stopped running the football in Philly. So had some disappointments there, but it's fine. I'm a champion. I have to look at the bright side. So that's the good thing to focus on. All right. Now, as promised, we'll move on. I just wanted to boast about the rings. Bill, I know you have no rings, so it sucks. It sucks being down there, but you'll prevail, especially with the podcast. You'll prevail. Moving on into our quick. We only really have one piece of news because, as I've mentioned, we're not really hitting on week 17. So Dynasty related news that we're going to hit on. The only real Dynasty related piece is Dwayne Haskins being released from the Washington football team. Bill, what do you think about this? Do you have any real thoughts?
Oh man, I feel like Dwayne Haskins is going to be one of those guys that we see in the XFL.
like
Oh,
Cardale Jones.
Be the quarterback for the Washington Redskins. I mean, no, not the Redskins, the football team. That's what people say.
Did you see Johnny Manziel's coming back?
Whoa, Johnny Part 6?
There's a new startup apparently called the Fan Controlled League or something like that, and he's gonna be a part of it.
You know where he messed up, bro? When
partying?
When he was in Canada, he had to demolish his Canadian deal for the AFL, and then the AAFL or whatever, the American Football League one. They ended up not getting like jump started as an organization, so he only played like 2 games for that league, and that like deferred him from ever playing in Canada ever again to be able to play back in America. So it's pretty interesting. I thought after all that, he wasn't going to be able to play in America ever again.
No, that is crazy. I think he messed up with the partying though, just to be
that was
sure.
Like a decade ago, man. If you're the most popping guy in college football history, you'd be partying too on your weeknight, seeing Drake and shit instead of going to
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, it's college. What can you say? But anyway, poor Johnny. Anyway, back to Dwayne. I saw a lot of people on Twitter too were like surprised. They were like, I don't know, just shocked that he would be cut, as though like they haven't seen him play poorly all year. It's really weird.
He didn't play a lot of games in college either, so his resume wasn't really too deep.
Mm-hmm. He had the 1 season.
Yeah, he only had 1 season, and that was only like 4 games.
No, he played a full season in college, and he had, because I remember he had the 56 touchdown season at Ohio State.
My fault for
because I actually went back and watched the 2019 draft the other day again, and because draft season gets me hype, you feel me? But it was funny because as he was getting drafted 15th, like all the analysts on there were going like, yeah, the Washington football team. Well, then they were the Redskins. They were like, yeah, the Redskins just got the best quarterback in this draft class. He had 56 touchdowns in college last year. He was so great. And it's like, any idea where he may go next? He's still a free agent at this moment.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Philadelphia Eagle next. Yes, bro. That's some Eagle shit that we would do.
Yeah, it would be
some guy that hasn't been playing too much. I would say, all jokes aside, I would say destinations for Dwayne Haskins would be the Eagles. I feel like to add another quarterback in our quarterback room, that's the type of shit that we do for the Eagles. As long as we make our quarterback room more competitive, we would do it as an organization. And then also another team that could potentially be in the market for Dwayne Haskins would be the Patriots, but I feel like the Patriots would have picked him up off of waivers. And then the third team that I would name would be the Las Vegas Raiders, because that seems like a Gruden-esque move to pick up a guy that didn't do well post-college, but would do well with Gruden in his offense and a West Coast offense. So
definitely. I also read on Twitter that the Panthers were kind of interested too. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater looked pretty good at the beginning of the year, but it's kind of trended down a lot in recent weeks. So
he's backdoor covered Teddy, not playing the football game, Teddy. But on those teasers out there for those people that play on FanDuel.
I wish Teddy was still killing it. He has that potential. He's a good player, but he just gotta, consistency, put it together. We'll see if he gets another chance. Anyway, we'll see if Dwayne Haskins gets a real other chance, or if he's just relegated to a Josh Rosen sort of situation. and never gets another chance again. Two ways he could go. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, that was really the only piece of news. I'm going to talk a lot now because I'm going to run down the playoff situations. If you're watching, you can see it on the screen, so it's much more simple for you. But if you're listening, heading into Week 16, Packers clinch a 1 seed with a win over the Bears or a Saints and Saints or Saints and Seahawks loss, I think. I don't know. Either way, they win. They clinch if they win over the Bears. Saints clinch the 1 seed with a win over the I meant Packer. What? Oh, win over the Panthers and the Packers loss. My bad, guys. I'm sorry for botching this so early and often. Seahawks clinch 1 seed with win over the 49ers and Packers and Saints loss. Washington clinches the NFC East with a win over the Eagles, but if Washington loses, the winner of the Cowboys and Giants will win the division. The winner of the Rams and Cardinals will be in the playoffs, but the Cardinals have no shot if they don't win. If the Bears win, then they are in, and if they lose, then the Rams will be in, whether they win or lose. So Rams are kind of in a better position, especially with Chicago playing Green Bay this week, who still has something to play for. Tampa Bay, they're kind of just sitting there. They're in no matter what happens. They play Atlanta this week. So kind of will come down to seeding for them and who they play round one. It's probably going to be the winner of the NFC East. So good luck to whoever wins the NFC East. Moving on here to the AFC, the Chiefs have already clinched the 1 seed. Bills will clinch the 2 seed with a win or a Steelers loss. Steelers clinch the 2 seed with a win over the Browns and a Bills loss. I don't know why I said or, but I meant and. Titans clinch the AFC South with a win over the Texans or a Colts loss. Colts clinch the AFC South with a win over the Jaguars and the Titans loss. And then it's kind of more difficult when you get to the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds because they're all sitting there at the same record. Kind of comes down to tiebreakers there. Miami's in the best position. With a win, they're in. Or if one of either the Ravens, Browns, or Colts lose, then Miami is in. Ravens clinch a win or clinch with a win over the Bengals or a loss to either the Browns or Colts. Browns clinch with a win over the Steelers or a Colts loss. And then the Colts clinch with a win over the Jaguars and a loss for one of the Dolphins, Ravens, or Browns. So kind of more difficult towards the end there, but this is the stipulation for getting into the playoffs. Bill, real quick to involve you a little bit here. Do you think anyone in the AFC can dethrone the Chiefs?
To be honest with you, I would have to see the path that the Chiefs will have to take because the Chiefs are very matchup driven.
I can imagine that.
Teams that can beat them. Like I don't think the Steelers are beating the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see like a team like the Titans beating the Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah, they did
just
last
like a random team.
Or they didn't do it last year, but they did during the regular season.
Control the football or something like that. Like that's a random team I can see. Like you have to have a run game to be able to beat the Chiefs. I feel like.
I think the Bills too have a shot. They have a pretty solid defense and a good offense.
Josh Allen is outdueling.
I don't know. We've slept on, according to our rankings, we've slept on Josh Allen all preseason, and he's the number 2 quarterback on the year. So, yeah, we can continue to sleep. We'll see. It might happen. It might not happen. It's still very early, so we'll have to see how it goes down. But that is the AFC playoffs. Real quick, we'll hit on our survivor picks for week 17. Just to show you, last week I took the Bengals and they won. Very surprising that any team would win this late in the season. We only had 2 teams left after last week. So for this week, we only have 2 teams left. So I took the Jets as I had the first pick against New England. I mean, it's kind of a toss-up, but the Jets are on a little run now. So maybe. And then Bill last week took the Broncos, who lost to the Chargers. So we are both 9-6 now. And Bill has Detroit, who's the last team left, going against Minnesota, which looks even worse now with Matthew Stafford potentially not playing too. So I'm happy one of us, has a brighter outlook than the other. Just saying. But we will get into the main segment of our show, which is going to be our 2020 rankings discrepancies. Basically, we're going to just take a quick look back on some guys that we had ranked higher or lower compared to consensus, and then, where they actually finished and the difference between that. So let's start on a positive note, Billy. Let's start with some victory laps because we're, obviously, we both missed a lot, but let's start on some spots where we both did really well. Billy, for you, one of our big talking points preseason was Drew Brees. You had him ranked as the quarterback 14. He actually finished in points per game as the quarterback 18. And I say points per game because he missed 3 or 4 games with his rib issue. So he actually, you were off of him. I was kind of decently in on him. And, you were more right than me to be in on him. So that's a good.
I was pretty strongly off of Drew Brees. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember that, but I think it was like one of the drafts that either one of us did. I don't know if you drafted him or somebody in the Fantasy Force drafted him, and we did like the show that week, and I was like, dude, Drew Brees is not it for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out to be right. Because I don't feel like that was one that like his injury was gonna really affect his numbers. It was just more of just like Drew Brees just not being able to pass the ball like the way he used to in the past.
Yeah, that's kind of too, why I tried to highlight points per game too, which can kind of, paint a weird picture because Marcus Mariota is technically the quarterback 2 in points per game because he played 1 game, but I tried to take him out and any other outliers too. So quarterback 18, down year, you were on it. So great job there. Let's see other victory laps for you. Josh Jacobs, you ranked him perfectly. He finished at 11 and you ranked him at 11. So that's a good hit. Chris Carson too. I know Chris Carson missed some games, but you ranked him at 16 and he finished at 17. And he was about there for the most part, even when he was playing too. So it's a good take, and he's kind of around that middling running back area. Anyway, how about Allen Robinson? You've had him ranked as the wide receiver 8 heading into the year, and he finished as the wide receiver 7. So some people were off of Allen Robinson heading into the year, but you were in on him and thought the market share was going to be there, pretty simply. And here it is. He did well. And then a little deeper, Jamison Crowder finished as the wide receiver at 35. You had him ranked at 34.
Yeah, dude. One of my conviction receivers of the year.
Yeah.
One of the first videos I ever did for the Fantasy Force podcast, I talked up Jamison Crowder as being a sunshine. And
I remember that.
This dude, he's going to win you fantasy championships. And man, if you had Jamison Crowder last week, you might have got yourself a fantasy championship, man.
Well, I mean, I went through my team, and you know who was on there?
Yeah, Crowder.
It's funny because I actually traded you for Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I got Marquise Brown out of that trade too.
Yeah, Marquise Brown and
I wonder how
third or a second. What was that?
Is that one of my misses this year? Is Marquise Brown? Because I had him ranked as like wide receiver.
I believe it is. Yeah, it is. All right, we'll get there. Some victory laps for me. Tom Brady, I had him ranked at quarterback 9. He finished at quarterback 8, so right about on point.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. Because I feel like the non-running quarterback is becoming so obsolete in fantasy football
Mhm.
that when you take one that isn't a running quarterback, it's so risky, man. I
Yeah,
feel like you can even play like a low-level quarterback and they'll probably get you rushing yards or something like that.
right.
The way fantasy has been trending towards running quarterbacks, the fact that a guy like Tom Brady can finish as a QB1 definitely shows the talent of Tom Brady still in his later years of his career.
Yeah. He definitely, and he was supplying too, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, Rob
Brown.
Gronkowski. Like
Yeah.
they were all, having great games towards the end of the year too. So Brady, he'll be back next year too. So the ageless Tom Brady.
Hopefully
Uh
AB's not there in my Tyler Johnson wide receiver shares.
um Todd Gurley is someone. I had him ranked as the running back 27 heading into the year, and he finished at 24. So he was a bit higher. He's someone we'll talk about for you a little bit. Kenyon Drake finished as the running back 14, right as the running back 11, which obviously isn't the same, but he actually played 14 games. If he had played one more game, his average would have had him finish as the running back 12. So, he's right about there. Moving on here, Adam Thielen finished as the wide receiver 10, ranked as the wide receiver 10. Mike Evans finished as the wide receiver 11, had him ranked as the wide receiver 11. And then finally, Tyler Boyd finished as the wide receiver 28. I had him ranked as the wide receiver 28. So some nice
who
little
was the
accuracy there. What's
who
that?
was the guy that we had on right
Deep
season?
dive, Brandon
Yeah,
Gabauer.
deep dive. Yeah. Shout out to him if he's listening though.
He had
Oh, and
it was
Antonio.
basic. It was our My Guy episode, and he had
Yeah,
Tyler
the
Boyd as
my
a My
guy.
Guy.
Make
Yeah.
sure we bring him back for my guys this year because his convictional rankings on Antonio Gibson and Tyler Boyd ended up convincing me later on in the season to get some shares of Antonio Gibson that I thought I would not have gotten to
Hmm.
without him, and that's definitely the difference maker for some of my potential teams that almost made the playoffs or not was having Antonio Gibson or not. You
Yeah,
same
and
for you,
he was
right?
great.
Didn't you have Gibson in a couple of spots that you because I know one of the drafts right before the year we did, you either got one of those two guys.
I traded Gibson for Dalvin Cook in that package.
Yeah.
Um, it was Gibson, two firsts, and Christian Kirk in return for Dalvin Cook, like a second, a third, and what's his name, Deshaun Jackson.
I think
So
Gibson's a cool piece to have to a team because he had trade value, and also if you didn't want to trade him, he still had value to your team
yeah,
uh, up until he got hurt. So I feel like that was one guy that I just randomly thinking about as I digress.
right. I have him in another rebuild too. I have him and J.K. Dobbins. So for that situation where like heading into next year, I have those two guys. I'm like pretty, hyped for my
Yeah.
prospects. Um, plus Chase Claypool. So we're young and we're lit, and 4 first-round picks. So young and
Yeah.
very lit.
This
Um,
talk since we're talking about Dynasty real quick. I
sure.
can't wait for the all season to come because I got some high draft picks this year, so I'm gonna be searching those college names. It's
We'll
gonna be
we'll
we're gonna have
we'll
some
be going into it.
big discussions because in one of my leagues I literally had the second, third, and fourth overall pick
Wow,
in the draft. So
that's crazy.
tank for Trevor is really in the cards of being there.
Yeah, for sure. If he doesn't go number one,
Yeah.
there you
I mean, if
go.
you draft a quarterback number one, you're stupid.
Eh, depends on need,
There's
obviously.
always a running back or a wide receiver that's more valuable than a quarterback in fantasy, especially for dynasty.
If it's a single quarterback, obviously I'll agree with you. But if it's a super flex or two quarterback, a situation where you gotta play two, or you could play two each week, and there's a guy like Trevor Lawrence sitting there,
Well,
that's a situation where
think about the people that drafted Jalen Hurts in the second and third round of their rookie drafts compared to the guy that drafted Joe Burrow third overall in their
or
rookie.
Justin Herbert, he was
Yeah,
going
you
like
know what I'm
towards the
saying?
end of the
Like
first.
the Herbert Hurts and freaking other quarterbacks of the world, Tua and stuff like that, basically outperformed Joe Burrow's draft capital, in my opinion.
Hmm. I feel you make a good point, but when there's also a guy like Trevor Lawrence sitting there who's like, the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, kind of, changes things a bit, in my opinion. We'll see, though. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not committing to anything. I don't believe I have the number one pick in any of my leagues, so I also can't speak from experience. I probably won't fall into Trevor Lawrence in any of those leagues. So, all right, rankings, discrepancies, the big ones. Let's start with the quarterback position. Bill,
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, heading into the year, you had him ranked as the quarterback 7. He finished as the quarterback 13. And I think the reason for this disappointment on Matt Ryan's end is
Julio.
pretty self-explanatory.
You know
Julio
who?
Jones getting hurt.
You know who called this one?
Who?
Detroit Beastie,
Did he?
listener. He said, "quote unquote." I'll never forget this quote too, because this is like the day after I drafted Matt Ryan too. He said, "Matt Ryan does a thing in fantasy where he does really good one year and does really bad one year, does
Mhm.
really good one year, does really bad the next year, and this year was the bad year." So I caught Matt Ryan on a bad year.
It wasn't too bad, but like when Julio was not, it was pretty like distinguishable too. Like if Julio was playing, then you knew you could play Matt Ryan, but if Julio wasn't playing, then you couldn't. And it was weird too though because like Calvin Ridley was still great all season long. So like I don't why couldn't like what why did Julio make such a big difference if you still have an elite wide receiver on the football field? It was kind of confusing, but that that's another situation to talk about because as of right now, the Atlanta Falcons hold the 4th pick, and Matt Ryan, 30, going to be 37 next season. That's a
Yeah,
question, something to talk about.
and he's one of the quarterbacks in the league, right? Top 5.
Paid?
Yeah.
I could pull that up, but I know there's a potential out after this season where I think they would take like you know, what's I know I saw it was like um 25 million in dead cap or something like that, but it was still like a lot of savings. It was still like saving $14 million or something like that. Let me pull it up real quick. Contract breakdown for Matt Ryan. So this season he made, let's see, $20.5 million, which isn't that bad. I think what we're referring to is guaranteed money. The potential out after this year is a $26.5 million dead cap hit, but it would clear up, let's see, $15 million in cap room. So, you know, it's it's a weird situation. We'll have to see how it happens. Plenty of off season left, plenty of things to look into, but that's just one little early thing. 15 Keegan, 15 commenting Briz Kid,
Keegs,
Billy,
what up, Keegs?
one of your guys. Um,
Yeah, one of my guys from the dub, man. Shouts to Keegs. Actually, in our home league that we both play in, with the guys since middle school, the one I told you I have the second, third, and fourth picks of the first round. Keegs actually won the
oh,
inaugural season this year
wow,
because the first year that we switched over to a dynasty league for our home league, and
right.
Keegs won. He had the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Terry McLaurin, and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, that is a good roster. Congrats for the championship, and yeah, nice going, giving him the title, Bill. I know it's all on you.
Actually, bro, it really might be, man, because I made it. trade, I want to say, earlier on in the season, and definitely helped them out.
Thank you, man. Keep up the great work. We will do our best to. Thank you for the attention, the comment, everything. We're always, very open and receptive. So thank you. Moving on here, quarterback position for you, Bill. Final one I got here, Josh Allen. This one's kind of, we were talking about it earlier, kept sleeping on him and all that. But this one's kind of on both of us. You had him ranked at quarterback 8. I had him ranked at quarterback 11. Finished as the quarterback 2. I mean, he still ran the ball about as much as he was in the past, but the only difference was like his accuracy went from like 60 some percent, like I think he was career around like 62%, to this year he's up around like 68%. So that's a pretty big jump. I mean, Stephon Diggs, I guess, just makes a big difference. And I
Yeah,
guess we weren't projecting that.
Stephon Diggs was the answer to everything, dog.
Definitely. And, Stephon Diggs is someone else further down the line we'll talk about, but like we said, he's the difference. I also think, though, that Josh Allen can take a regression heading into next year if the Buffalo Bills sort out their running game, because Zach Moss and Devin Singletary this season, they could not run the ball to save their lives. And I know they do not want to be in a position where they cannot run the ball to save their lives, because you're in that, grind it out, burn the clock situation for your team. You got to be able to run the football. So they might try and figure that out, which could mean less rushing for Josh Allen in the future. But for now, quarterback 2 on the year. Great season for Josh Allen. Great season for anyone who drafted him.
Yeah.
You know who is the OG Josh Allen lover? Superflex guru, Trey Tyndall.
Yeah, I was gonna say Trey. I didn't know his at name off the top of my head.
Yeah,
dude, Trey. You know what call I'll give Trey, which is like call of the year. Make sure you hit those guys up to come on the podcast one of these weeks. So we can
yeah, definitely. We're
fucking-
probably gonna start coordinating more fantasy forecast episodes soon too, because
yeah,
fantasy season's over. We'll have the weekend. Not everyone's gonna be watching football all the time. So
yeah, Sundays. Trey's call of Derek fucking Carr, dude. That's the call of the year, bro. Derek Carr is definitely top 20 quarterback this year, like you call it.
Where I'm gonna find out exactly where he ranked, but I know he's top 20. He's had a good season, and it's really weird.
Season compared to where the market was drafting him, I want to say he was ADP quarterback 28, because I was looking at some notes earlier. Him and Gardner were in the same exact range.
And he finished as the quarterback 14 on the season, right behind Matt Ryan. So, pretty good hit. Especially in those deeper super flex leagues where you could get him that late. He was very helpful. Now, as for me at the quarterback position, we mentioned it with you, but Drew Brees, he was someone that I really liked heading into the season. I'll take this L here. Had him ranked as the quarterback 5. And he finished as quarterback 18 in points per game.
Frustrating.
I mean, like you said, not much to say other than like he just kind of, Michael Thomas being hurt didn't help him, obviously. Michael Thomas, I want to say, played 3 or 4 games with Drew, maybe even less with Drew Brees, because I know he was healthy for Taysom Hill games. But Drew Brees being out there with number 1 Emmanuel Sanders, who was another big miss of mine too, because I if you remember, I was a big Emmanuel Sanders fan, and I know I got to eat it. I traded a first-round pick preseason for Emmanuel Sanders because I thought my team would be a contender. I thought my team was going to be great, and that first-round pick turned into the number 2 overall pick, Bill.
Yeah.
Number 2 overall. Dynasty bites you sometimes like that. And, it's easily it's funny because it's the Fantasy Forecast Listener League. And it's like the one where we're supposed to have fun with the listeners and all of that. And it's like, I'm not even having fun because I'm not managing my roster right. It's just, it's easily my worst managed team, and obviously it's my fault. But yeah, I gotta figure something out.
Yeah,
So
one league that I was in, the Quarantine Crazy League. That's probably
yeah.
my worst managed roster team of like my life because I had too many Duke Johnson shares and Duke Johnson and David Johnson. Because for the people that don't know, I don't use, even though we play on Sleeper app, I don't use the Sleeper app to set my lineup.
hmm
I use Draft Wizard or whatever
hmm
because it shows you the people that are available in your league and stuff like that without you having to actually do the work. And
And you just saw the D Johnson.
yeah, the D Johnsons and like I was like, I'm a fucking idiot. And 2-3 weeks in a row, it was like, all right, now I'm
uh, gotta just trade them all at that point. No, not can't even have David anymore.
bro.
But
It was crazy. It was like I literally had David Johnson, Duke Johnson, every roster this year for no reason. Like two people I wasn't even high on.
Duke, such a disappointment.
We gotta go on that one app that shows you your dynasty shares
hmm
at the end of the year of the percentages. I want to see where I have some people like
I believe heading into this season, my highest owned players were Alex Smith and Taysom Hill. So, just because of price, I guess. And I like taking the shot on those late quarterbacks. And Alex Smith played this year, so that's about as much as I could hope. And Taysom Hill also played this year and might play next year. So, some things to look at for sure. But as far as Breeze, like you said, though, he just wasn't the same throwing the football all the time. He had some situations where he was okay, but for the most part, he was just mainly disappointing. And like I said, Michael Thomas not being there didn't help. Alvin Kamara rushing for a lot of touchdowns didn't help. Situations like that held Breeze back. And then Aaron Rodgers, another big miss for me. I originally had him ranked really, really low, but I ended up moving him up right before the season started. I had him ranked at quarterback 15 before the season in my last ranking update. And he finished the season at quarterback 4. And this is one of the things, too, that like when I originally posted my rankings and everyone was, coming at me for different things. Aaron Rodgers was easily the guy people were coming at me the most, saying like, "You just can't rank him so low because he has the best chance to be great among guys that he's around." Like I think originally I had him around like Baker Mayfield and Gardner Minshew and guys like that, and obviously, I moved him up towards the end. I don't have my rankings on hand to know exactly where he was or who he was next to, but um, obviously 15 too low. Quarterback 4 on the year. So yeah, the Aaron Rodgers. I mean, for me, I was just expecting things to remain the same in Green Bay, which would be, lack of weapons outside of Devonta Adams, which isn't too true either because Lazard stepped up when they needed him a bit. Tunyon was pretty good this year at tight end. So they had some more besides just or just Devonta Adams. And I also expected Aaron Jones to be as good as Aaron Jones was again, in a way, or as heavily utilized. And he wasn't. Aaron Rodgers is close to 40 passing touchdowns, if not beyond that, on the season. So, two things that really went wrong was me mainly just expecting Green Bay to remain the same way, and that's on me because
Yeah.
teams grow, coaches grow. Matt LaFleur grew, and the team grew as a whole. And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. So, again, on me. But that's the two main quarterbacks that I missed out on. Two main quarterbacks Bill missed out on. Let's touch on running back. Bill, for you, Aaron Jones. Just mentioned him. You had him ranked as the running back 16 heading into the year. Finished as the running back 5.
Yeah, crazy about that, man? That 16 was a high rank for me personally because
Wow.
I looked at. I have two sets of rankings. The ones that I put out early on in draft season. So like the way too early drafts that we end up doing, like when we all get horny after the rookie drafts and all that, and we're like, all right, man, let's
Yeah.
do these, quarantine.
Right.
Um, yeah, man, I had him ranked at like running back 25, and then I moved him up to 16, like that. So that 16 rank could have been way worse too. That one, I was like, oh, I was a bad miss.
It's funny too because I just said like I expected Aaron Jones to be a bit better. Like I expected the offense to kind of remain the same way, and I didn't even have him like close enough to 5. I think he was still. I think he was around 12 for me.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought AJ Dillon was gonna play with
yeah,
Paul Williams.
right. Um, Yeah, and Jamal Williams did like even when Jamal Williams played, like
He
he
was
took
good.
snaps. Yeah, he took snaps from Aaron Jones. He was
It
pretty
was like a
decent on the field.
60-40
So
backfield, bro, throughout the year.
basically,
Just the
yeah,
60% was the fantasy
it's
reliable
funny
point.
too. Like Aaron Jones was a great running back last year, but he was like so inconsistent. Like he had the
Yeah.
huge
Oh yeah, no.
games.
Last year, bro, was crazy, man. He was probably RB1 first half of the season, and then like RB3 second half of the season.
Yeah, and I don't know. This year it was just like he's the running back 5, but it like he didn't have a ton of huge games, but he was very consistent for when he
I
did
think
play.
the
It was
reason
just
why,
opposite.
because this is Aaron Rodgers, like historical, like one of his best years back in the day with the vintage Aaron Rodgers days.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron Jones is a free agent after this season, and after what we just saw from Aaron or AJ Dillon, you know, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens with the Packers and Aaron Jones. But I mean, if they believe in AJ Dillon, it's kind of hard to justify paying a guy like Aaron Jones, who's going to require as much money as he's going to require. Um, Another big miss for you, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You could call him a miss for both of us. You had him ranked as the running back 3. I had him ranked as the running back 4. He finished as the running back 18. He was actually even lower in points per game as the running back 22. I don't even
No.
know.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna
Like,
comment on that one.
yeah, because Clyde looked good too. It's funny. Like,
Clyde
it's
in the beginning of the season, bro, for like the first 4 weeks, he had like the most touches in the red zone without a touchdown. So like,
yeah.
it was. I feel like he's a guy next year that I'm probably gonna end up buying again.
I think so. I think I probably will. And next year too, Le'Veon Bell won't be there.
Yeah.
The
Seems
year
like
of
a good, fruitful
experience,
situation.
definitely. So
It's
I'm not
just
too worried.
building, bro. Having the running back of the Chiefs for a team that passes so much, very tough.
Yeah, and he's a good pass catcher too. And it's there were games too where he was like I think the first game of the season he went without a catch, but he had like 22 carries and he was just like so good on the ground. I don't know. It's just really weird. But he is a good player, and his dynasty outlook obviously is much better. Excuse me. I mentioned him as a victory lap for me because I had him ranked appropriately. But you, Billy, you had Todd Gurley ranked at running back 13 on the season heading in, finished as a running back 24. So he finished a bit lower than where you were expecting. It seems you were a bit higher on the Falcons' offense as a whole heading in than they ended up. I mean, you could also make an argument about Julio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Julio does have an impact on the passing game because you can't focus in on Todd Gurley, but I mean, Todd Gurley just looked like terrible all season. Coming from a Falcons fan,
Brian Hill was better.
He did.
Early
And Brian Hill's not good.
Brian
Hill is not good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Brian Hill isn't good because as soon as Todd Gurley went out, we all started playing Brian Hill for daily fantasy, and it turned out Ito Smith was the guy that one. So that just shows Ito Smith is not a good NFL player.
No, well, none of them are good NFL players. Let's just put it at that, including Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's a free agent, so He'll be gone. He'll be gone. Ronald Jones too, the last one, finished as a running back 19. You had him ranked at 32. I actually had him ranked lower, so he should probably be in my category, but 37 I had him ranked. But I wanted to put him here for you because I know how much you loved Keyshawn Vaughn heading into the season, so I just wanted to highlight the difference between that and what you kind of think of the future too for Keyshawn Vaughn.
It all depends on if Leonard Fournette's there or not.
Yeah. 1-year deal for Fournette, who was still involved, even though, like, Jones had big weeks and Jones was like,
Wait, I gotta pee real quick, Rob.
All right, help yourself. For me, when we're talking about Aaron Jones, or I'm sorry, not Aaron Jones, Ronald Jones, for me, the big thing was I just kind of doubted him the entire time, and after his first 2 or 3, I think he's been in the league 2 years. After those first 2 years, it's easy to doubt someone, but we've seen this time and again now where guys like come up after the first few seasons to perform. So like, why should we keep doubting them? Just buy into maybe they're progressing and more often than not, if you buy into the preseason hype, I think things tend to work out. Like there was so much preseason hype last year about Chris Godwin. Look at how he finished. So much preseason hype this year about Calvin Ridley. Look at how he finished. So much hype about Ronald Jones, and he was very good for fantasy when he played. So, just buy into the hype and buy into the changes that can be made. And Keyshawn Vaughn, I didn't expect anything from him as a rookie. Billy was kind of on the opposite side. He thought he would be at least a little involved. But for me, I knew Bruce Arians and his opinion on rookies and hating to play them, especially at running back. So I had a feeling Keyshawn Vaughn wouldn't see the field much this year. He didn't, and that doesn't stop me from wanting to buy him in Dynasty. If you can get him for a low-end second, maybe a third. Don't forget, this guy was a first-round pick in Dynasty drafts last year for a reason, because he's not only talented as a running back, but he's also on a very good offense. All right, that was it for Billy at the running back position. For me, some big misses. David Montgomery finished as the running back 6, had him ranked as the running back 24, and I think we all kind of had. So I said originally this wasn't a situation where it's like compared to consensus, because consensus, this one, I just wanted to kind of review David Montgomery a little bit, because if you know me, or if you've followed me for a decent amount of time, last year, I was really, really big on David Montgomery. I really thought he was going to be a top 12 running back as a rookie. I really thought he was just going to be phenomenal for the Bears and everything they needed. And it didn't happen. He was very, lame all year. Just kind of to own. Got a lot of work, but didn't do a ton with it. And the same didn't happen this year. He got a lot of work, but he did a lot more with it. So it's not the same situation. But he also got a lot more targets with Tariq Cohen being out. With his torn ACL. That's something that can come down next season. But something that could stay the same is David Montgomery's efficiency on the ground, which he got a lot better as the season progressed. So that's something that I wouldn't shy away from when looking at David Montgomery next year. I mentioned Aaron Jones. Had him for me as well because he ranked at running back 12 for me, which doesn't really make sense on my end. I feel like if I was doubting Aaron Rodgers, then I should have loved Aaron Jones. And running back 12 is not loving Aaron Jones. So, I got to review that on my end personally. Bill, I mentioned real quick David Montgomery for me and Aaron Jones again for me because, like I said, I didn't have him ranked too much higher than you. And, if I was down on Aaron Rodgers, I should have been high on Aaron Jones, because I knew the offense was going to be good.
Remember when we did the ranking summit for Dynasty Force, and I ended up being the highest on Aaron Rodgers, and everybody was like, "Why are you so high on Aaron Rodgers?" And I was like, "Man, I thought this was a low rank."
I do remember that though. I mean, and look at him now. Everyone loves him. back on the ship. For me too, James Conner had him ranked as the running back 16 heading into the year. He finished as a running back 25 in points per game.
Yeah, I knew that one was coming.
I can say that I expected Pittsburgh to be a good running team. They have a great defense, which is true. They have a good offensive line, which is half true. It's not been the offensive line of years past, but it's still pretty decent. They took a lot of injuries to their offensive line this year too. But I just expected them to be a good running team no matter who was back there. Like if Benny Snell was the lead back, I thought Benny Snell was going to be pretty good because, good offensive line, good downfield receivers too. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju can be a good downfield receiver. But yeah, I just didn't, things didn't work out that way for Pittsburgh this year, and I think that's a lump that you gotta take. It wasn't really necessarily looking at Connor's talent himself, because I didn't look at him as one of the more talented guys, but I thought he would be a stable RB2 for teams, and he wasn't. Definitely wasn't. He is a free agent after this season. I don't think he's got any shot of going back with Pittsburgh. So I have no idea where he'll be next year. I think he's more likely to be in a reserve role, if anything. And then the final running back I wanted to highlight, this one pains me the most. Cam Akers. He was my guy. He was one of those guys that I put a pin in, planted the flag. Loved Cam Akers so much. Like I said, if you were listening preseason, you knew he was a my guy for me. Finished as a running back 49 and in points per game, running back 50 overall, ranked as the running back 17 heading into the season. Bill, Cam Akers, do you have hope for him in the future?
This is Sean McVay. If the Rams want to be a good football organization, they need to start playing their players that are good football players instead of doing complete and utter bullshit that got them with Jared Goff fucking up the season for them, getting hurt, and their playoff chances and championships hopes out the window with Jared Goff being paid way too much money.
Yeah. They started to give the run to the Cam Akers. He had the huge game against before the Jets on Thursday Night Football, I remember. Patriots? Yeah, it was the Patriots.
Yeah.
Huge game. And then he had the high expectations for the Jets, and then I played him that week too in multiple leagues and lost because, well, actually no, I only lost in one league, but I played against him. That's why I played against him in the other. But yeah, he disappointed in that situation because they were not in the positive game script. That's another thing too. The Rams are like a team that needs to be in a positive game script for any of their running backs to succeed. Because once they get out of that positive game script, like they work so well off play action and like the running game and play action and all this, and like if they can't sell play action because they're down by 20 points, then like they don't stand a chance. So I don't know. Rams, different story. I have faith for Cam Akers, though, at least for what you bought him for last year. So Cam Akers, to round out the running backs for both of us, let's talk about the wide receivers. For both of us, I have a few consensus tight ends for us, and then we'll be done. Bill, let's talk about Calvin Ridley. You had him ranked as the wide receiver 21 heading into the season. He finished as the wide receiver 5. Care to explain?
I thought I had him ranked a little bit higher, but that might have been Dynasty, not redraft, because I think Dynasty had him ranked as a wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver
2. I think also too, like a lot of people would make the argument like, oh, Julio was out, and that just means more targets for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
But like Calvin Ridley was still really good when Julio was on the field too. So it's not like, Calvin Ridley is just a really good player. He's a really good wide receiver, and the third-year breakout was real. So Calvin Ridley is someone that be on the lookout next year. He'll probably still go pretty cheap in dynasty draft, or not dynasty, but redraft leagues. He'll probably be around the third round pick still because Julio's not going to retire. He's still going to be the second option, and that's something that doesn't appeal to players when they're trying to draft someone early. But remember, Calvin Ridley, he's a good player. He gets that target share, so don't worry too much. Bill, this one is kind of for both of us, but DJ Moore, heading into the season, you had him ranked as the wide receiver 7. I had him ranked as the wide receiver 5. He finished as the wide receiver 23 and was the wide receiver 25 in points per game. I mean, yeah, you're making kind of like a confused face as I mentioned DJ Moore. Is it?
Yeah, more confused of just like I don't understand why he didn't have a good season. I mean, I get Robbie Anderson was there and he was in the new offense and stuff like that, but Robbie Anderson was just outscoring him for so much in the beginning part of the season that I ended up killing his stats at the end of the year. But DJ Moore is still the touchdown guy, so I don't know what to make of DJ Moore in the future if I'm gonna fully buy back and be a top 5 wide receiver for Dynasty.
I think for me to buy back in as a top 5 receiver, they would need to upgrade at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Teddy, as much as I like him, I don't think he can support multiple wide receivers. Plus, Curtis Samuel was there for the big plays and all that. Christian McCaffrey is still Christian McCaffrey, so when he plays, he's going to be everything for that offense. So I don't know. We'll have to evaluate further in the offseason on DJ Moore, but definitely disappointing for both of our expectations heading into the season, coming out of the season. I mentioned it earlier, but Stephon Diggs, I had to put this one in because it was such a big difference. You had him ranked as the 28th wide receiver heading into the year, and he finished as the wide receiver 3. So that's like night and day, kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really too surprised because I wasn't high on Josh Allen, so I wouldn't be too high on Diggs either.
Stephon Diggs just showed this season, I wasn't opposed. I went back and forth on Diggs. I had different rankings where I was pretty high on him, had him as a top 12 guy, and then I had different rankings where I was pretty low on him and outside my top 24. And I think I finished having him around 25, so I was also low on him. But I wanted to buy in because I know the talent of Diggs, and I know the reason why he wanted to leave Minnesota was he wanted the football. So if you want to leave because you want to get more targets, you get traded to a team for as much as they traded for him, which was a first, a third, and a fourth round pick in the rookie draft. And then after all that, you're I just believe you're going to get the targets, and he's a great player. So great player getting the targets. He was one of the biggest steals of drafts period this offseason. So definitely Stephon Diggs, kind of a miss for a lot of the Dynasty, or not just Dynasty community, but everyone in the fantasy community was
beat you week 1 bet of Jameson Crowder outscoring Stephon Diggs.
Well, I think they were playing each other.
Yep.
And
Crowder had the 70-yard touchdown, I think.
Yeah, I expected if anyone was going to get a big touchdown, it was Stephon Diggs. I remember being so in on him, I'd bet $20 on a multi-touchdown week for him to win $500 or something like that, because I just knew he was going to have a big game, and it didn't happen. But it was solid. But hey, wide receiver 3 on the year. Who finished higher? There we go. Let's change that bet a little bit. And then finally, Marquise Brown, just to you didn't have him ranked too bad. Finished as a wide receiver 37. You had him ranked as 26. I mean, the difference between that is kind of like a wide receiver who helps your team more consistently and less consistently. For I like Hollywood is a discussion to have though. Like, I don't think Lamar is going to change. I think Lamar is going to stay a 200 yard per game passer, and especially in a system where Mark Andrews is the number one wide receiver, basically. What do you think of the future of Hollywood Brown?
I think the future's still high for him. Even though he didn't have the most fruitful of fantasy seasons, he had one of the highest air yards at the end of the season. So hopefully those air yards become real yards, and he'll bounce back and have a good season next year, because I have him across a lot of dynasty teams.
You do now, thanks to Jameson Crowder, or for me. Thank you for Jameson Crowder. Anyway, moving on here, try and wrap this up. At the wide receiver position, Will Fuller is a miss for me. I had him ranked as the wide receiver 42. He finished as the wide receiver 10 in points per game. He was really good when he did play. He got the suspension at the end of the year, which did suck for teams. But, had him ranked, like, I was just counting Will Fuller out. He hadn't been a wide receiver 1 on the field before in his career, and this is sort of same as Ronald Jones for me, or for you, where people continue to doubt Ronald Jones because he hasn't done it before. We'll continue to doubt players further on because they haven't done it before, but players grow. So I mean, Will Fuller, he was definitely better than Brandon Cooks when they were both out on the field. So I'll take that as a loss as well. I also was very low on Deontay Johnson, had him ranked as a wide receiver 47. He finished as the wide receiver 19. And he also missed, I had him 19 in points per game, I meant. And he also had situations towards the end of the year where he kept dropping balls and kept, so he should have been better than 19, essentially. And this is another situation where, too, I mentioned buy into the offseason hype, because there's so many situations. I mentioned Chris Godwin last year, Calvin Ridley this year, Ronald Jones this year. Deontay Johnson received a lot of offseason hype, and it paid off for anyone who drafted him.
Yeah, man. I remember Shane said Deontay was going to outscore Juju.
And he did.
Yeah.
He did. So, well, I think he did in points per game, we'll say, because injury, Juju, I think, played 16 games. Well, 15, but still. Christian Kirk, I had him ranked at 37. He finished at 45, so not too much lower, but the difference between 37 and 45, 37 is a guy who helps your fantasy team sometimes, and 45 is really not. And if you remember, too, there was like a 2 or 3 week stretch, during the season where Christian Kirk was pretty relevant for fantasy. But outside of that, he's just done nothing. So I was kind of in on, I had him ranked higher than Deontay Johnson and Will Fuller. Those guys obviously outperformed Christian Kirk. So comparatively speaking, Christian Kirk was a miss. And then the final wide receiver, DK Metcalf, I had to throw it in there. I mentioned him as a bust on the podcast preseason. I had him ranked as the wide receiver 29 heading into the season, and he finished as the wide receiver 6. So, not much to say. I just doubted DK Metcalf. I doubted his ability to become the number 1 in this offense. I really thought he would remain as the number 2. Instead, Tyler Lockett became the number 2, and Tyler Lockett was the guy who was much worse for fantasy, more like a wide receiver 29, even though he finished a bit higher than that. And another thing about DK Metcalf, too, was he was also receiving off-season hype. So just another little piece of information. Buy into the off-season hype, because it tends to work out. It's hype for a reason, And then finally, tight end, Bill and I together because we don't have Bill's rankings specifically. I didn't try to find mine specifically, but we do have our consensus rankings. So Bill, Darren Waller, we had him ranked as a tight end 7 heading into the season. He finished as a tight end 2.
Yeah, big miss on that one.
Definitely. I feel like Darren Waller is the new Zach Ertz, where
on him.
No, Zach Ertz was really good for a long time.
Yeah, I was just saying, the bad taste Zach Ertz is putting.
Zach Ertz was not great when other wide receivers were active, but when other players were inactive, which was often for the Raiders this season, like Henry Ruggs not being there, Brian Edwards wasn't active for most of the season. Nelson Aguilar stepped up a bit, but there was even some games that he missed. Darren Waller was just the funnel, and he's the offense goes through him. It's not going to change. He is. Where would you put Darren Waller in tight end rankings for next season? Obviously, Kelsey ahead of him, Kittle ahead of him.
3 or 4.
Would you rather have him or Mark Andrews?
I'd rather have Waller, safer floor.
I think I would too. So I think, if you could pay like a 3rd or 4th round price for him, I think I would. And then the final one, tight end, Evan Ingram. We both consensus had him ranked at 6, and he finished as tight end 14. I mean, you get bit sometimes, especially when you buy into a guy like Evan Ingram, I guess. Not much to say other than that. So yeah, that's basically a big review on how we did as far as rankings heading into the season. Obviously, we had some big misses. Everyone has big misses. It's important to look back on them so that you can learn and see how to grow from there. And it's also important to look back on what you did right because grow from there.
Same process for next year.
Same process, yeah. Or, I'll even grow from this, I'll learn. Don't doubt the Packers offense for no reason, basically. Yeah, I like this. I like this episode, though. It was enlightening looking back on some guys that I poorly ranked for whatever reason. So definitely enlightening. Gives us good reason to look ahead. And speaking of looking ahead, next week, Bill, I had a plan for next week, and now I don't. I did have, what would be fun, and I think we should do this. We will have a way too early Dynasty mock draft. That will be fun, definitely.
Yeah.
Not what I originally was planning on, but I don't remember what I was originally planning on, so it's obviously not that important. This Dynasty mock draft is now important. So tune in next week. We'll have that. Again, follow us on Twitter. Me at FantasyForceFB. Billy at Getting Bills. The show at Dynasty Force Pod. YouTube, Dynasty Force Podcast. And Bill, you're about to go live?
No, I'm not about to go live. I'm going to start ranking in my lineups for the night, though. Gotcha.
Well, good luck with that. Check him out on Twitter regardless, though, for when he does go live.
Yeah,
at Getting Bills.
Live tomorrow morning, though, over on Pub Sports Radio every morning, NBA strategy show. Even if you're not playing daily fantasy, if you want to get a better edge of who's in, who's out, and what news to follow and who's the good plays today. Very helpful for people that play sports bet and stuff like that, or do same game parlays and stuff like that. Definitely.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll hopefully see you next weekend or next week. And again, stay frosty and let's keep making fantasy great again together.